My parents gave my car to my brother without asking me. They just said, "You can buy another one." I didn't argue, I let them think they won. But when my brother tried to register the car, he got a big surprise. I worked hard for that car. I've always been the responsible one in my family, the one who helps, doesn't ask for much, and follows the rules. When I was 16, I got my first job flipping burgers. I saved every dollar and didn't waste money on parties or shopping. After years of saving, I finally bought my first car, a used but reliable 2014 Subaru Outback. I paid for it myself, and it was in my name. My younger brother, Logan, was the opposite, lazy, spoiled, and always in trouble, but my parents always bailed him out. Meanwhile, they expected me to handle everything on my own. I was living at home, working part-time, and studying at community college. It wasn't ideal, but it helped me save money. My parents even charged me rent, which I paid without complaints. But what they did next showed me how little they respected me. "We thought you'd be okay with it." One weekend, I went on a short trip with my girlfriend. When I got home, my car was gone. At first, I thought I misplaced my keys, but then my mom said casually, "Oh, we gave the car to Logan, he needed it for work." I was shocked. They didn't ask me, didn't tell me, they just gave it away. "You gave him my car?" I asked. "It's not a big deal," my dad said. "You work from home now, you can just buy another one later." I was furious, but instead of yelling, I stayed calm. "You do realize the car is in my name, right?" I said. My mom waved her hand. "It's just a car." No, it wasn't. Letting them think they won, I didn't argue, I just went to my room. I let them believe they had won, but I knew something they didn't. The car title was still in my name. That meant Logan couldn't legally register it, get plates, or even insure it. And the temporary tags? I found out they were fake when I called the DMV. I waited. Then it happened, Logan got pulled over. "Hey man." The cops towed the Subaru. Logan called me, panicked. The cops towed the Subaru. "Something about fake tags and unregistered vehicle. Can you fix this?" "Nope," I said, "not my problem." My parents called me, screaming that it was my fault. "It's your fault," I told them. "You took it from me." Then I went to the impound lot with my title and got my car back. Logan tried to report the car as stolen. He actually called the police on me. When the cops came to my job, I showed them the title. They laughed and said, "This is airtight. He's got nothing." Logan was charged for filing a false report. A few months later, when he tried to register another car, the DMV flagged him because of his past tickets and the false report. He had to pay $1,300 in fines, and my parents had to bail him out. They blamed me, saying I tore the family apart. No, they did that when they chose favorites. 2 weeks later, I moved out into a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I stopped talking to my parents. Logan sent a half-hearted apology, but I didn't believe it. The best part? I still drive that Subaru. I got it cleaned, fixed up, and it feels like mine again, because it is. A few months later, I thought everything was finally behind me. Then I got a knock on my door. It was my uncle. He looked nervous. "Your dad's in big trouble," he said. Turns out, after I left, my parents put all their financial problems on Logan. They even tried putting bills in his name after theirs got shut off, but Logan had no money. So my dad had an idea. He used my personal information to take out a loan. I started getting letters from a bank about an $8,000 loan I never took out. My dad had used an old copy of my social security number and driver's license to apply for it, and, of course, he never made a single payment. I went to the bank and pulled the loan documents. It was all fake. My name, but a false email, false job, wrong address. He even listed my Subaru as collateral. I didn't get angry, I just went cold. I filed a police report. The bank opened an investigation, and I made sure they had every piece of evidence. A month later, a detective called me. The bank was pressing charges: fraud, identity theft, forgery. My dad was arrested. My mom tried to cover for him, but it didn't work. And for the first time, I felt free. The detective already had proof. My dad's fingerprints were on the loan papers. It made the local news, just a small article, buried on page 6, man accused of stealing son's identity for loan. After that, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Old friends, family, some supported me, others were mad, saying I should have kept it quiet, but I hadn't done anything wrong. I just stopped covering up their lies. My grandma, my dad's mom, called me crying. She begged me to drop the charges. "Family is everything," she said. I asked her one thing: did he ever say sorry? She didn't answer. My aunt, from my mom's side, texted me, "I don't blame you. Your parents always treated you like an outsider." Logan, my brother, went silent. No calls, no texts. I thought maybe he hated me too. Then one day, he showed up at my job. He looked older, like life had worn him down. "Can we talk?" We sat in his car, a beat-up Nissan. He sighed. "I swear, I didn't know they used your name for the loan." I believed him. He looked scared. Then he said something that shocked me. "They want me to take the blame." My parents were telling Logan to confess, to say he forged my name. Because he was younger, he might get a lighter punishment. The same parents who spoiled him, protected him, gave him everything, were now throwing him under the bus. He asked what he should do. I told him, "Don't lie for them, not this time." At pretrial, my dad pretended it was all of misunderstanding, but the proof was too strong: his fingerprints, his handwriting, even the Wi-Fi address where he sent the application. They offered him a deal: 2 years of probation, full repayment, a public apology to me. He refused. He wanted to fight. My mom tried to visit me. I told her not to. She left a note on my door: "You used to be such a good boy." All of this started over a car, but really, it was about something bigger. I never had a real family. They didn't love me. They loved how useful I was, how quiet, how obedient. When I stopped playing along, they turned on me. But I gained something: clarity. I started seeing a therapist. She said, "Sometimes, cutting ties is the healthiest choice." I nodded, but I wasn't done yet. Logan moved in with me for a while. For the first time, we really talked. He told me something else: they had been lying to him too. They told him I left because I didn't care, that I gave him the car, that I'd abandoned the family. They had been poisoning him against me for years. We made a plan. Logan agreed to give a statement, the full truth. The plea deal was back on the table, but now there was one extra condition: a public apology, in writing, filed in court. My dad tried to fight it. He failed. The hearing was set. In 3 weeks, I'd watch him read every single word. 2 weeks before the hearing, I got a letter. No return address, just a plain envelope. Inside, a document and a sticky note. The note said, "You need to know everything." The document was a power of attorney, signed 3 years ago. It gave my mom full control to act on my behalf. But here's the problem: I never signed it. It was a forgery. And it was dated before the loan. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. I called the bank. I called the notary who witnessed my signature. Turns out, the notary was my mom's church friend, and she wasn't even a real notary anymore. Her license expired years ago. I got a lawyer. We pulled more records. They used that fake power of attorney to open a second credit card under my name. $1,900 in debt. What did they spend it on? Home Depot runs. A vacation in Santa Fe. Grocery store tabs. They had been stealing from me even before the Subaru. And the worst part? It wasn't my dad's idea. It was my mom's. I called her. I shouldn't have, but I did. She answered like nothing was wrong. "Hi, sweetie." I didn't even say hello. "You forged my signature." Silence. "I have the power of attorney. I spoke to the notary. You used my name to open credit. You stole from me before the car, before the loan." Still silence. Then she finally spoke. "I did what I had to do to keep this family afloat. No regret, no apology, just cold calculation. You lived here, ate our food, you owed us." That was the last time I spoke to her. When I told Logan everything, he went pale. "You're telling me they've been using your name even before the car?" "Yeah." That night, I heard him crying in the bathroom. The next morning, he was gone. He left me a note. "I can't live with them, or myself, until I make this right. I'm going to Pueblo. I'll find the notary. I'll get her to talk. I'll get everything." 3 days later, Logan sent me an email with an audio file. It was 17 minutes long. A recording of my mom talking to the notary. The sound was rough, but clear enough. The notary: "I don't want to be dragged into this again." My mom: "You didn't do anything wrong. He was our son. He owed us." The notary: "No, you were just stealing." My mom: "Don't act like you didn't get paid." That was it. That was the moment. I sent the recording to my lawyer. He forwarded it to the DA. The DA reopened the case. Now, my mom was charged too. Fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. The court date was delayed. The case got bigger. I kept going to work. I kept paying rent. I kept driving my Subaru, like nothing had changed. But everything had. One night, I came home and found a letter shoved under my door. No return address. Inside, an old credit report. From 2 years ago, back when my credit score randomly dropped and I didn't know why. It showed 5 accounts opened under my name. All in collections. None of them mine. And all of them linked to my Uncle Roy. The same uncle who had warned me months ago. I went straight to Roy's auto shop. I didn't yell, I just held up the paper. He sighed. She said you wouldn't notice. Turns out, he helped her. My mom was drowning in debt. She had already ruined Roy's credit, so she moved on to mine. She used my name, he delivered the documents. That's why he warned me before, because he knew this was coming. I reported him too. I gave the DA Roy's name. They asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said, and I was. Roy didn't fake any documents, but he helped move stolen information. He knew what my mom was doing and didn't stop it. That made him part of the crime. 2 weeks later, Roy was arrested. This time, the news covered everything. My phone was full of messages again, but this time, no one defended them. Even my grandmother stopped calling. She knew, they all did. The courtroom was full on the day of the hearing. It was a bigger courtroom now because there were more charges. My mom and dad were both on trial together. Roy's case was separate. I sat in the front row, just like I promised. Logan sat next to me in a wrinkled button-up shirt. He hadn't said much since we found the recording. The room felt heavy. You could see it in the way people avoided eye contact. My mom kept playing with her scarf. My dad stared at the wall, like he was somewhere else. The judge entered. We all stood. Then the prosecutor spoke. "Your Honor, we will prove that the defendants worked together to steal from their own son, without his knowledge, just to benefit themselves." Then, they showed all the proof. The fake power of attorney. The recording from Logan. The fingerprints on the loan papers. The internet records. The notary's statement. The old credit cards under my name. Even Roy's confession. My mom turned red, then pale, then just empty. My dad didn't react. Then, they called me to the stand. I walked up, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. For the first time in my life, I said everything out loud. They didn't just take my money, they took years of my life. They used my silence. They lied to my brother. They lied to everyone, because they thought I wouldn't fight back. The room went quiet. I turned to look at my parents. My dad taught me how to drive. My mom packed my lunch when I was 10. I loved you both, but you loved what I could do for you more than you ever loved me. My mom's lips shook. My dad blinked once. But he said nothing. The judge called for a break. We stepped into the hallway. Then it happened. My mom rushed up to me, whispering angrily, "You did this to us. You embarrassed us." Logan stepped between us. "He didn't do anything, Mom, you did." She looked around, like she wanted to escape. Then my dad spoke, and his words hit me harder than anything else. "We only did what we had to do. You wouldn't have helped us otherwise." That was it. That was the truth. They felt entitled to my money, my work, my future. I looked at my mom one last time, tears running down her face, and said, "I'm not your backup plan, I'm your son." My parents got a deal. No jail time. Full repayment of what they stole. Mandatory financial counseling. Community service. Their lawyer told them to take it, they did. The court ordered them to pay me back over $17,000. It might take years, I might never see the money. But I didn't care. Because they had to stand in front of a judge and admit what they did, out loud, in front of everyone. Logan moved to Fort Collins and got a job at a warehouse. We talk once a month. He's slowly rebuilding his life. Roy lost his auto shop after pleading guilty. We haven't spoken since. My grandmother sent me one last birthday card. No note, just $20 and an old drawing I made when I was 7. I never wrote back. 6 months later, my mom left a voicemail. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know I hurt you. I miss you." I never called back. Some days, I feel bad about that. Some days, I don't. Therapy helps. I still go. I still drive the Subaru. It has 210,000 miles now. It runs a little rough in the cold. I don't care. Every time I sit in the driver's seat, I remember the day they took it from me. And the day I took it back. Not just the car. My life. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again. When the people who raised you betray you, it breaks something inside. It doesn't heal like a broken bone. It heals like scar tissue, thick, stiff, always reminding you. But I've learned something. You don't owe loyalty to people who hurt you just because they're family. Sometimes, love has limits. And sometimes, walking away isn't betrayal. It's survival.